Hey, so I'd like to share my 4 rules for any successful budget. And whether you've never budgeted before or you're looking for ways to make a budget even better, this video will help transform how you see budgeting completely and help you see that it is a tool for empowerment and not something to be scared of, but something that actually enables incredible wealth building, whether it's just helping you get out of debt or help you further along on your money journey. And these 4 rules are the condensed version of my 15 years of experience learning what does work and what doesn't work with wealth building and budgeting. And if you're looking for surface level advice about math or spreadsheets, that information's out there, but this video goes a lot deeper in connecting the behavioral elements of what it takes to build wealth with what you can actually do with a budget. And this is what it's taken for me to really get to the next level with my money. And I hope that I can share it with you in about 20 minutes so you don't have to spend 10 years learning how to do this successfully. I want to start with a story. So imagine that you are an Olympic athlete training for an Olympic game, and you're a high level athlete and you have a coach. Well, imagine what a coach does for you in your sports practice. So, a coach does a few things. One, they help you look at your past performance. And so they look at ways to improve on things that you've done in the past. They analyze games that you've had and they look at how can I make this person better going forward? What are the key things that they need to focus on? In the moment, a coach is looking at your current performance. So whether you're in a practice session or you're in a game, they're watching your play in the moment and they're figuring out how can I help this person get better? What is it that they're missing that maybe they don't see themselves that can help inform how they can perform better? And then in a bigger picture, they're looking towards the future. So a great coach is inspiring you about where you're headed. So whether you're just focused in the moment because you're really stressed out about your current performance, a coach is looking out at the bigger picture and helping you connect where you're at right now to a broader vision. And so I want you to, if you can imagine this, get rid of the word budget altogether and think about budgeting being a coach. And so instead of budgeting being something that's scary, start to think about a budget as your coach, where if you do this right, it starts to inform things about your money and your spending behaviors. And so that's really what a budget does. And within context of what this channel is focused on, I want you to imagine that each of your dollars is really practicing for the money Olympics. And so when we think about a budget, it's coaching you and it's coaching your money to perform towards this money Olympics game where it's at a really high level. And a budget can have all different sorts of coaching performances. At a bad level, maybe your money doesn't have a coach at all, which means you don't have a budget. Maybe you don't have a really high performing budget and you're doing just enough to kind of help you know where to go. This could be like a coach practicing at little leagues. But what I'm really focused on is how to create a budget that's coaching your money to the level of success that is at the level of the Olympics. And so that's what we're going to focus on here. So let me give you the definition of how I define budgeting. So, a budget is the intentional assignment of each dollar to meet your needs now while enabling your best future. So, let's walk through this definition. So, one, a budget helps you or a coach helps you be intentional about what each of your dollars is doing. Are they doing the best that they could be doing for whatever is important in your life? And this next part is so critical. So, this is actually a definition of sustainability. So, when we think about being sustainable in life and money and anything, what we're talking about is how do we meet our needs in the present moment, this exact moment, while ensuring that our future selves are set up for success and not just set up, but it's our best future. How do we not make our lives so miserable in the current moment just to help our future? But also, how do we make sure we're not hijacking our future by doing bad stuff in the present moment that's messing up that future? So the question is, how do we become sustainable? And that's what a budget does for you. That's what a good coach does for you. A good coach is making sure they're training you in the present moment and while not risking injury that would impact your future ability for this Olympics that we're talking about. Okay, so then let's get into the four rules that any budget should have. And this is really key. So, a budget has nothing to do with math, and it's all about managing your behavior. And so if someone is resisting a budget at the surface level with math and technical detail, it's not going deep enough. And so hopefully this video can help inspire you around what rules you should be looking at in your budget. The key part of this video is I'm not telling you what tool to use, but it is important to look at, is your budget doing these things for you in your life? Okay, so here's the four rules. The first rule is that a budget should be helping inform your past. And what do I mean by this? So, when someone comes to me and says, "Hey, I need help with a budget," a lot of times people don't have specific information on their past. They have this general idea that, well, I spend money, I pay my bills, and I don't have a lot left over. And it's just kind of this paycheck to paycheck cycle. They don't have a lot of specificity. And what's key in life, whether you earn a little bit of money or a lot, is that you understand where your money's went. And it matters so much more if you don't make a lot of money, because every single dollar that you make is so critical towards your success, especially if you want to be in the money Olympics that we're talking about, where we're building wealth. Each dollar really matters. And so a budget should be telling you, or a coach for your money should be telling you, do I know where every dollar went? A budget should be able to tell you and help you look at, did I spend my money purposefully? And so a good way to test this is if in your past you have a lot of guilt, shame, or negative emotion attached to money, you might not be spending purposefully. So if you feel bad because you made an impulse purchase or you feel guilty, these are things that a coach would help you look at. How does a budget do this? In a future video, I'll share with you my process for what I call a 90-day look back. And this is similar to what you might have heard of, like a financial audit, but to look back and say, yes, my budget has helped me in the past be intentional about my money or not. Okay, so then the next rule for any good budget is that it helps you in your present moment. And so what a budget helps you do is it tells you what you can and can't do in the present moment, but it does it in a way that is thoughtful about what you need. And if you need to make adjustments in the present moment, you can. So a budget should allow you to flexibly move money from category to category and make you feel like it's something that's empowering you and informing you about what you want to do. It's looking at your current moment and it's helping you understand what you need. And so if your budget doesn't do this, some signs of this might be having guilt with purchases, or if you don't budget today, having guilt just in general, or you have questions about how it might impact your financial future. Okay, and then the third step is looking at your future. And there's this constant negotiation between, how do I meet my needs now with this current spending that I'm making, with the key things that are coming up in my future. And here's how to do this in a good budget. So it should look at three things. One is your short-term immediate needs. So every single time you receive a paycheck, your budget should be helping you cover, what is it that I need to pay for between now and the next time that I get paid. Then it starts helping you go out a little bit further. So, what is it that I need to cover maybe in the next month? Or let's say in the next 6 months, I want to plan for a vacation and I need to start budgeting $100 or $200 every paycheck so that I have enough money when I get to that vacation, that I'm not going in debt. And more importantly, I don't feel guilty at all about spending the money because I've very purposefully assigned money to that job. The other key thing, and this breaks so many budgets, is that a good coach is helping you look out for unintended expenses and unintended things that pop up. Just like if you're in a sport where something unexpected happens, like in any game we watch ever, a coach is helping you get back on track. So what does that look like with budgeting? Well, it means that we start thinking about, what are things that might be coming up that I'm not planning for? Like maybe my car's going to break down. Well, I'm going to start prioritizing those unintended things so that if and when they do happen, it doesn't blow up my budget. And here's the biggest reason why a lot of budgets fail and they feel like they're not helpful, is because of exactly that problem. So let's say you just do automatic saving and you don't budget. and you try to save basically 10% of every paycheck and you've just automated your savings. That's a great first step. But what happens if that car expense breaks down? How do you know if 10% is actually saving enough for the different jobs that you need your money to do? It might be too much money or not enough. And then when something pops up, now you're kind of in this state of panic because you thought you were saving enough, but you actually haven't been. A good coach is going to allow you to get more specific about your future by really thinking through not just the short-term needs and the things that we kind of know about already, but also the expenses that if we thought a little bit more are probably things that might happen to us. Okay, so those are the three rules. And what this should really be helping you do is reduce anxiety around money. And so, again, think about budgeting as a coach, not as something that is restrictive and just telling you that you're bad. In fact, you might be able to think of some examples of bad coaches you've had in your life that didn't help you grow and they just made you feel guilty. And it was just not an enjoyable experience being around a coach. Well, a bad budget kind of does the same thing where it's making you just feel guilty about whatever it is you're doing and it's not helping you grow. That's the key thing. Okay, so then I want to get into this next part. Let me tell you a story. So imagine if you have a job. Do you know what it feels like when you feel overworked? Do you know what it feels like when a boss comes to you and says, you need to go work on this, but you already feel like you have five different priorities and you're so stressed and there's not enough time in the day to do work and you're just completely overwhelmed at the amount of tasks that you have to do? Well, this is the same thing for your money. And so let me tell you how. A good budget assigns each and every dollar to only one job. And so you can imagine what a good job feels like is when you have one task and then you finish that task and you go on to the next one. The problem with most budgets is that we assign money to multiple things. So what we do is we create future categories in our budget and we say, well, I want to do 500 bucks here, $500 here. We don't actually take the money that we have and budget it for only one thing. And that's a key of zero-based budgets, which I've talked about a few times, but we're going to get into a little bit more here. So the idea of zero-based budgeting is that you only ever budget the money that you have. You never budget for categories or for money that doesn't exist yet. And so this is a big mindset shift and it takes a little bit. So if you've never budgeted before, don't feel bad that this is a little confusing. In my next video, I'll actually walk you through what this looks like in real life so you might be able to connect this rule a little bit better. But the idea is that you only budget the money that you make, so only money that you have right now, and your dollars can only have one single job. And so what this looks like is let's say you have $1,000 in a paycheck. What you have to do is you have to assign each of those $1,000 a specific job until you have no more money left. And so the idea is that these dollars are like soldiers in your army, and every one of these soldiers needs a mission. And so you don't want to stop budgeting until every dollar has a mission. So this does a few different things I want to tell you about. So when you have a constraint, when you can only budget the money that you have, it requires that one, you're really intentional about what those dollars are spent on. But two, it makes you really focus on what is it that I want to prioritize with these dollars? What are the jobs that are most important? And so you can think about going back to the job analogy. Imagine if a boss is giving you 10 different things to focus on with no prioritization. You don't know what's important and it's really stressful because you want to do a good job and you're trying to do these different things, but you don't know what's important and you're splitting your time on all these different things. Well, a good boss tells you this is the most important thing. This is your one job that you need to do and then you can go on to these next things. It allows you to prioritize and execute the jobs that are most critical for you. Well, a budget or a coach for your money does this. So they tell you this is the most important job for you right now. And so let's go back to the three rules. Let's say your most important job for some dollars that you have coming in is a future purchase. Let's say you know something's launching in 6 months. It could be maybe you follow some brand or product that's really important to you. So what you would start doing is you would assign your dollars in the moment a job for that. Well, what does that mean for your budget? That might mean that you don't have enough dollars to assign them jobs in your present moment. So maybe you don't have money for eating out, but you can start to kind of negotiate with yourself and say, well, I could assign $10 to go out to eat at lunch, but a lunch doesn't really make me that happy. I'll just eat at home. What I know is really going to make me happy is when I can make a big purchase in 6 months that's completely guilt free. I'm not going to have any guilt about making this because that's the priority that I have. So it helps you prioritize the things that are most important so that when you have mental resistance around spending, it can help you actually say, no, actually, I'm not going to have a lot of mental resistance about this other purchase because it's not most important to me. And I'm really excited about spending money over here. It starts to turn money into a powerful tool for you instead of something that restricts you. The last thing I want to call out, because I know this video is getting kind of long now, is that when you do this well, you can find free money. And I know this sounds crazy, but stick with me. Going back to the example of being overworked at your job. Imagine your boss gave you 5 different tasks to do. But imagine that one of your projects just magically gets canceled. Have you ever had that feeling at work where it's like, oh my gosh, I have all of this free time now because I don't have to do this thing that I was assigned? You feel really lucky. It's the same exact thing for your budget. So when you go through this process, you're assigning your dollars jobs. Well, let's go back to that example where you're making a purchase in 6 months. Let's say you decide that actually, that product's not that good and I don't want to make that purchase. You cancel that job. Well, all of that money that you've assigned towards that job magically just comes back to you. And this is the power of zero-based budgeting because you assign money to a job. And if you don't do the job, you decide not to spend the money, or maybe you do the job, but you spend a little bit less money than you planned. It's like you're just finding free money. And then that money can go to new jobs that you have. And so there's this continual feedback loop where budgeting feels better and better because you're assigning money to jobs and you don't spend all of the money and then you start seeing free money come up. And this can get really powerful because you can say, well, I thought that this job was going to cost me $100 to do, but what if I found a way to only do it in 80? Well, then 20 of those dollars that were assigned that job now come back to me for something else. And so then this is the power where you start looking at your budget as a coach, where it's helping you decide where do you want to spend your energy. And so then this is a continual feedback loop as well, because the coach is telling you, here's what you did in your past, maybe some areas to improve on, or maybe some areas where I actually really did enjoy spending money. Here's areas where you've assigned money for current jobs in your present moment, and now you get to decide, are those the right jobs? Will those make me happy? Or do I need to move money around to spend more in the present moment by taking some from my future, which is okay. Again, we're trying to be sustainable in this definition. Or can I maybe spend less money in the present moment because I'm feeling pretty good and I don't need to spend money, and I can start putting money towards future jobs. And it's this continual feedback loop where you're learning about yourself in the past, you're getting more specific about where your money is going in the present, and then you're becoming more thoughtful about where your dollars are going into the future. And going back to the purpose of this channel, which is helping you build wealth, where we're doing the money Olympics, this can get really inspiring because you can start to look at, well, what are the jobs I need my money to do in the future to help me build a wealthy lifestyle, money that starts growing on itself. And once that starts unlocking in your mindset, it's like a whole new world because you get out of the paycheck to paycheck existence. You start getting out of debt and money starts doing more for you, and you can start getting really inspired by not money as the focus, but what it's doing for you in your life. And so these are the 4 rules that I have for budgeting. And again, these are behavioral, they're much deeper than any specific tool. The key thing is that you're able to implement these rules in your life. And so, however you decide to budget, what I really hope for you is that you have a very specific understanding of where each and every dollar went in your past. You feel comfortable with spending money in the moment. You don't have guilt or shame or any negative emotion because you have a plan for your money. And then in the future is like, how do we build the most empowered life for ourselves? And that's really where I get excited, and where a lot of the passion for this channel comes from. Is I hope that this helps you. And then lastly, this every dollar is a job, making sure you assign only the money you have in your bank account to specific jobs. This helps enable all of that. And I hope the examples with the work help. So in my next video, I'm going to walk you through, well, I have a couple different videos coming out. So tomorrow I'm going to work on a paycheck process for like when I get a paycheck in, how do I budget that with this process? And then in the following video, I'm going to walk through how to create an official budget that does this, including how to look backwards in past purchases so you can kind of start on this journey if you haven't got there today. So that wraps up the 4 rules that I have for any budget. And I hope that this has been helpful information for you. And if you don't budget today, that maybe this gives you a different perspective and inspires you to start budgeting. Or if you have a budget today, have learned something that can improve your budgeting practice. If this video has been helpful for you, I would really appreciate if you would like and subscribe. A like tells others that maybe this information would be helpful for them as well, so that this can get to more people. And I'll be continuing to release weekly information from budgeting to wealth building and everything in between. So would really appreciate if you wanted to join. It means a lot to me so that I can start talking to you more often. And if you're just finding this channel and this video for the first time, I just released a video prior to this one on my shoulder here that is the intro to my budgeting series that talks about really why you might want to budget outside of these rules for creating one. And so if you want to jump over there, that can kind of give you a better intro into conceptually why a budget's so important.